Welcome to In the House, and I'm Mark Shiver. So glad to have you joining us on this episode. And the College World Series is going on, and I heard one of the announcers say, if you're keeping a card, which means if you're keeping score at home. And, I'm an old school baseball guy. I love that. And I was thinking about my next guest. If you've been keeping a card, she's kind of like getting it done. I mean, having a great session. And so, Representative Erin Paré, Wake County, welcome and tell us, how are you having such a successful session?
Oh, I appreciate that, Mark. It's so good to be on your show today, or your program, I guess I should say. But well, thank you for that introduction. It's a very kind introduction. I do feel like I've had a very productive session. So I appreciate you noticing that too, and making that comment. And I just think it's easy to have a productive session when you're able to work with so many good people on some very important issues that benefit North Carolinians all across the state. And that's exactly what I think the pieces of legislation that I have sponsored do. And there's several of them. I'm sure you'll ask me about them here soon, but I really think we're making some good policy for North Carolinians, not just with my bills, but overall our caucus has really done a good work this session so far for the people of North Carolina.
I happen to agree with you. And I was thinking the other day about the policy that you guys have been putting forward. And I like to, come up with characterizations of sessions. And this session, I would say, has been fast, is one way to characterize it. You guys have really been getting stuff done quickly, which I think is good. You're not not just sitting around. But I think some of the legislation that you've done, to me, just makes sense. And I think House Bill 574, I believe is the number, fairness in women's sports. To me, that just makes sense, Representative Prey. You don't need guys, whether think they're identifying as a female or not. You don't need them playing on women's or girls' sports teams, do you?
Well, absolutely. I agree with you. And not only do I agree with you, the vast majority of North Carolinians and Americans agree with you. I mean, this is a common sense bill. And all this bill says is if you are an athlete and you're going to be playing competitive sports in high school or college, then you need to compete against other athletes of the same biological sex, regardless of how you identify. So this bill does not prevent anyone from playing sports,
right?
Nor does it prevent anyone from identifying. It just makes the playing field, literally the playing field, equal for all athletes. So it's fair and safe. I mean, I think that's one of the testimonies that we heard from some athletes, one in particular, Peyton McNabb, who was actually hurt when she played a volleyball game against a transgender female who was a biological male who spiked the ball at her head and gave her a concussion and some other lasting physical problems because of that. So this is about safety, it's about fairness, and it's about keeping intact the integrity of women's sports. I think that's important. It's important for me as a mother of two school-age children who are both competitive athletes, and it's important for all of North Carolina to allow anybody, regardless of how you identify, to be able to play sports fairly.
Yeah, I agree. And I was going to bring that up. You beat me to it. But the integrity, I think it's so important. I mean, we have read across the country stories about, like, and it seems to be swimming is very popular where this happens, where a child, a female has spent hours and hours and hours in the swimming pool, and they've trained and they've practiced and they've been dedicated, and all of a sudden a guy who is identifying as a female jumps in the pool, and because their musculature is different and all of that, they're winning awards, they're getting ribbons. I read of a case where a a male was given a ribbon just because they wanted it to look better. And this poor girl was just standing there in tears. And that does not, to me, show any integrity in sports. And so I think this bill is important to preserve that integrity.
I agree with you completely. And I think we need to keep in mind that competitive athletics isn't just about going out, running around, and having a good time. Competitive athletics is about scores and placements and awards and times. And all of that absolutely matters. When you are competing against other athletes, placements, finish times, winning and losing, all of that makes a difference. And so this isn't just a recreational, let's go out and have a good time. This is years and years and years of investments of time and perseverance and determination and practice. And it's not just the athlete, it's their entire family that goes into this. This is every single second on a clock sometime matters. And where you line up against your other teammates matters for your future, matters for scholarships. And so this is a serious thing that we need to think about for our female athletes, and making sure that the integrity, like you pointed out, is intact when it comes to female athletics. And this bill does that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think all of that makes good sense to me. So, like I said at the beginning, it's a common sense piece of legislation. Now, I guess it's passed and is going to be on its way to the governor.
That's correct. Yes, it did. It did pass the House. Actually, and it passed the Senate, almost along party lines, but we did see one Democrat that voted with the Republicans to pass this bill. It came back to the House for concurrence. There was a minor change that was made over in the Senate with regards to wrestling, but now the bill has passed the House and it is on its way to the governor. We'll see what he does.
Good. Well, congratulations on getting another bill passed. And I'm keeping a card at home. So,
well, before you move on, I just want to give a quick shout out to my colleague, Jennifer Balcom, for her leadership on this bill. I mean, she really did carry the weight on this bill in the House. And then over in the Senate, Vicki Sawyer was a lead on this bill. And also Kristen Baker here in the House. So it was definitely a team effort for sure.
You know, I want to just say, because of what you just said, we've got quite a team of female legislators. And I don't mean that in any kind of negative or stereotypical way, but you guys are a great team. And so you're doing a great job, I think. And male, female, whatever, as members representing your districts and representing this state, I think you're doing a heck of a job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know all of us really appreciate that comment.
Now, another common sense piece of legislation is House Bill 8, which has passed the House and is now over in the Senate. And in today's environment, because of the educational needs that children have, this, again, makes sense to me. Tell us about your House Bill 8.
Thank you for that. Yes. So House Bill 8 is a computer science graduation requirement bill. And really what this does is it takes our curriculum in high school through to what our current workforce needs to fill some of these jobs in the 21st century that we need to fill, and gives our kids the proper training that they need to be able to fill those jobs once they graduate high school. So what this bill would do, and I worked very closely with Department of Public Instruction on this bill, is it would create a graduation requirement that every student, when they graduate high school, has to complete and pass a computer science course at that high school level. It would also require middle schools to offer a computer science class as an elective. And of course, in middle school, sometimes schools would be able to offer a high school level course in middle school that would also go to qualify for that requirement upon graduation. So this bill went through a few different renditions, so to speak, before we got the product that we did end up with. And it passed, I think, near unanimous in the House. And so we're waiting for its passage on the floor in the Senate. The both committees that looked at this bill passed, I think, unanimously in the Senate. and it did go through rules and passed unanimously. So this is a good bill for our young people. It's a good bill for our workforce, and it really gives them the foundation that they need to be able to compete in a workforce where 70% of future jobs over the next 10 years require baseline knowledge in computer science. So it's not really a question of if we should do this. It's always been a question of how we can best implement this. And I think that the work that we have put into this in conjunction with the Department of Public Instruction really gives this bill the robustness and the accurateness and the meaningfulness that we need for it to be successful for our kids in the state.
Absolutely. I think it's something whose time has definitely come. I don't see how anybody could be against children learning basic computer science. Man, I wish somebody taught me. I was just, it's just something that was way over my head, and it took a long time for me to learn just basic stuff, and I still struggle with some things. But again, common sense. It's a time, it's an environment, an age in our society, in our workforce, the needs that we have. I think you're right on the ball with this.
Yeah, I think so. And I think when we think of computer science, we think of IT, right? That's what we think of. And we think of maybe those jobs are in the IT sector alone. But that's just not the case. I mean, we're looking at that kind of foundation of computer science training that you need cross-sector. So we're talking about manufacturing, agriculture. We're talking all cross sectors need that baseline in computer science. So they can compete in a business environment that we need going in the 21st century. So it's really smart. It's definitely necessary. And I'm just really happy to see the support for this bill as it goes through the Senate, hopefully soon.
Yeah,
so we'll see.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, the thing that we often hear about North Carolina is that we're one of the most military friendly states in the country. And I think that's true. We have thousands and thousands of active duty veterans, retirees, their families. We've got all these bases, Fort Liberty, formerly known as Fort Bragg, on and on and on, Cherry Point and Seymour Johnson in Goldsboro. And we just are a military friendly state. And yet there's some challenges that our military face. And I think you did a heck of a job in pointing that out in an op-ed that you wrote recently. Tell us about some of the needs that our veterans have that first responders can help with.
Yes, very good. Well, you may know, but my husband is a veteran. He was a 24-year, I guess, veteran of the Army. He was an Army infantry officer and Army Ranger, and he deployed 8 times to Iraq and Afghanistan. Wow. So he is a combat veteran. He's been on the front lines. He's banging down the doors. He's done all of that. And so sadly, though, we have lost some friends and understand maybe more intimately than others just because of having been a part of that community for so long, the challenges that veterans face when they are off the battlefield in their own minds. And that, of course, is the PTSD we see that veterans suffer from, sadly, when they return. So I am just very happy that we have so many organizations across the state and also a will from our legislators to do something to help them. And I know in my op-ed, I pointed out to what the Independence Fund is doing across the state to really reach these veterans and get them the help that they need using local resources and our other heroes in our communities that can be helpful in that regard. Because this isn't just something that is, something that is, we know about it, but we should ignore it. I mean, these are absolute heroes. These people put their lives on the line, knowing what the risks are. And we always have to be cognizant of that, of their sacrifice, and cognizant that what they experienced overseas carries home with them here. And I think there's ways that we can continue to look at helping them. I know that I'm committed to that. I know our entire caucus is committed to that, and we continue to do good work in that regard.
Now, the Independence Fund, they help first responders to be able to be trained on how to deal with situations that they might encounter with the veteran who might be suffering from PTSD. I think that's excellent.
I think it's absolutely excellent. I mean, some of these situations are very complex, and understanding how to deal with someone that their new enemy is their own mind. I mean, if you think about that, that's extraordinarily difficult situation to deal with. And I think training our first responders to recognize what they're dealing with and to deal with it and respond to that and be helpful in a meaningful, immediate way is exactly where we need to be looking. Because sometimes those instances, when you're really at that breaking point, there's no time to waste, right? We need that help immediately. And I think what they're doing is excellent. I'm happy to support them, continue to support them, and get the good word out of the good work that they're doing as much and as often as I can.
Yeah, well, you're doing a great job. I think I've probably said that too many times, but I don't want you to get the big head on me here.
Yeah.
But you are
we do have
doing a
those
great
big
job.
doors, if they both open up. We have a lot of big heads.
Yeah, but you're doing a great job, Representative Paré. I'm extremely proud of you and the rest of the caucus, the Republican caucus. I think that our state is blessed to have people like you who are not only thoughtful in the legislation that you bring forth, but you have an ability to genuinely work across the aisle and get stuff done on a bipartisan basis. And I think that is extraordinary. And I'll give you the golf clap. You're
Thank
doing a
you.
great job. So
Thank you. It's always good to be able to get a lot of buy-in for your ideas. And especially when you're approaching things in a common sense way, you would hope that that would be bipartisan. But I think it takes a little bit of work. And along with anything you do, it's always good to work hard at it. So I think with these bills in particular, we really have some good products here. And I'm happy that they're becoming law. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, keep up the good work. Thank you. I know you're busy. So thank you for your time today and for joining us once again here on In the House.
Thank you, Mark. Great to be here. I hope to be back.